Hello and welcome. Michael J. Penny here with 5 Paragraph, going live yet again. I wanted to share with you folks a little bit about bringing on new employees, providing them an orientation. A lot of veterans that I've been chatting with recently, for some reason, are overlooking the orientation paragraph. Can't stress it enough. 5 Paragraph is written for everyone. You don't need to have any military service background whatsoever in order to use the text. In order to understand what we're talking about here, honestly, the learning curve is the same for a veteran as it is for for an American patriot, frankly. If you care about how we do business in the military, you probably care about America at large or as a whole. So technically, the 5 Paragraph business plan or the 5 Paragraph operations or the 5 Paragraph has 6. And I know that that might sound a little bit weird. There is an orientation paragraph. If you're giving this from a patrol leader's perspective, what you're doing is just giving a very, very brief overview of the entire 30,000-foot landscape. You're saying, you know, this way is north, here's the map, whatever the case may be. Now, the same goes in business. The exact same goes in business. You're orienting brand new people who are coming into your organization. They've gone through the process. You know, they're starting to get through the training, so they understand at least what's going to be asked of them within their strength base, hopefully, so long as you hire the right people, and how you're going to be working together. Now, on this, I put a title for building, or the title Building Relationships, which it is. It's all about building relationships. I believe that it's definitely an overused term, especially when we are not necessarily taught a whole lot of soft skills as we're coming up through school. I'm sure that there's somebody out there who would scoff at that, but the hard, fast truth is you're really not taught how to properly interact with people and build lifelong relationships while you're going to school. That's not something that you're taught. It's always an extracurricular event. It's always something that needs to be done adjacent to school. And that's a little silly, seeing as how the majority of your time, at least while you're spent awake, is going to be spent at school. At least that's what I remember out of my childhood. Too much time in a brick building, sitting in desks, confined to quarters, need to focus on this, not action-oriented whatsoever. Did not have a good time. All right, so when you're orienting somebody into the organization and you're explaining to them what you really do there, you're bringing them on as a new member of your team. What you've got to do, yes, of course, is hit the 5 W's: who, what, when, why, where, and how. You need to explain to them, you know, kind of the overview function. Okay, so how this is explained, if you're following along, and I did a video on this before, but I kind of went through it from a visionary perspective of how you're going to lay out your vision for, let's say, for instance, a loan officer, or somebody who's going to lend you money, somebody who's looking to do a convertible note. Maybe there's some sort of equitable breakdown, whatever the case may be, right? So that was the first video that I did. This is more toward, okay, you're going to bring on a brand new employee. Same pages pertain. It's 38 through 49. It's the middle section of the book. The reason why we did it this way is because you yourself, from a visionary perspective, have already created the 5 Paragraph business plan. And in here, what we're going to do is go from MET-TTSL from an executive summary standpoint into, okay, I'm going to brief the overall mission. Now, if you're following along all the way over to 49, the reason it's 38 through 48. The reason why we put the template on page 49 is you are going to roll straight into delivering your 5 Paragraph order to an extent, right? And it is an order. You're not explaining through your business plan to a brand new employee. That's not what I'm trying to get at. You are delivering their first order to them in order to move forward. Okay, so that'll be at the end of the video. Okay, so anybody who was with us in the orientation video or in the executive summary video before, you are familiar with MET-TTSL. Some of us coming up in the military, we learned a variety of different versions of MET. There was MET-TT, and then everything built off of that, MET-TTC, MET-TL, all of these other different ones that are out there. The reason why we use time, space, logistics as the last three portions in it is because of how executive leadership use it in the military. So for those of us like myself, who was a sergeant on the ground, we did not worry about time, space, or logistics because all of the time never had priority. Mission always had priority. Space, we knew where we were operating, and the logistics was already covered by our battlefield or our battle space owner. I say it that way because you guys can run the exact same thing. When you're going out there and you're doing your fragmentary, you're just breaking it down, situation, mission, execution, and that's what it looks like on a daily basis. I've discussed that before in other videos. So in talking this through, when I am discussing something with somebody as far as like a brand new team member or the idea of it, I want to understand whether or not they're passionate about it. Me personally, I describe the anguish that somebody has, right? So specifically talking to 5 paragraph, lack of accountability in business. In business in general, lack of accountability, okay? It's because we don't know what the hell is going on at the top. We are told that there is some sort of smoke and mirrors that is occurring and they need to go into negotiations and meetings and all of this other stuff. Okay, peek back behind the veil. Let's bring it all the way down to 0 principles. Let's go all the way back to, square one with this. Who was the guy who founded the MBA? Peter Drucker founded the MBA out of Claremont College. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. It's business 101 type stuff, okay? We provide the Essentials Drucker on our website under the reading list. So if you look at Drucker and you talk to folks who have gone through Drucker style programs in MBA, a lot of MBAs will tell you they know Drucker, they've heard of Drucker. He's one of the most quoted economists that are out there, and one of the most, I guess you could say, underappreciated because he's highly quoted and no one ever actually does what they're quoting. So I guess you could say there's a great hypocrisy associated with that. I bring this up in the context too, MET-TSL, because anybody who knows a little bit about category makers and other stuff like that, they always define that pain point first, right? So in the case of HACOA, if you're a fellow homeowner, right, and you've dealt with a contractor who has screwed you over at some point in time, then you completely understand the need for HACOA. And then you're like, okay, tell me about it, right? Whereas with 5 paragraph business plan, if I tell you, would you agree with me that there's a gigantic lack of accountability in business, throughout business, right? And I could use that as a general. Now, 5 paragraph, we're geared more towards skilled labor, small business. It's right where knowledge and skilled labor meet. It's in order to bring executive leadership and skilled labor into the fold together, not operating on one set and then the other is operating on this set. Again, it's all about the relationships. If I am, which I am an executive, if I am an executive working with a skilled labor, right, and I have that background, okay? I was out there with my brothers filling 1,500 sandbags on Father's Day, 2007, I think it was. And that was just, one of the crazy incidences where it's like, why were you filling so many sandbags? I wasn't even the one who got in trouble. All right, so I always talk about the pain point, and then right after the pain point, boom, hit them with the mission. And then I start MET-TSL. Due to the lack of accountability in skilled labor small business, we at 5 paragraph have created a simple, easy to understand, highly effective tool for managing an action-oriented, right, flexible, situationally dependent small business. All right, and a small business is any startup that is going, well, it's 20 million and below. Let me put it to you like that. If you're making under $20 million in revenue on the annual, then you are under you are under the bar for a small business. All right, so due to the lack of accountability in skilled labor small business, we at 5 paragraph have created a simple, effective, easy to understand and implement tool for you to be able to manage your organization. Now, manage your organization, not your people. This offers leaders the ability to get outside of that freaking office, get outside of the building, and get eyeball to eyeball with those people who work directly underneath of them, with them, alongside them. They're all in the same organization. Why wouldn't you have a relationship with one another? Now, I go into the enemy. I talk about the problem. I talk about specifically in depth what the problem is, and I get into that. Okay? Being told to go and do something and not necessarily given a reason why. A lot of people would probably believe that the military is based on you're going to go and commit this action, not have a reason why. No, you're given the reason why inside of your operations order. That's exactly the whole point. You're given all the details that are necessary in order to execute the mission. All right, that's the idea. Now, are there quick reaction force scenarios and other stuff like that where you're jumping into a situation and you don't necessarily know what's going on? Yes. That's why we operate on the fragmentary order. Fragmentary order is in the book. So I discuss the enemy, I discuss the problem, I go deeper into the pain point, into specifically what we're talking about as far as lack of accountability and skilled labor. But I talk about the industry overall. I look at the market, right? So the industry as far as the key players that are within the industry, the landscape from 30,000 foot. I boil it down into a center of gravity, that where we want to go as far as a market is concerned. And then I boil it all the way down into that critical vulnerability. That little area that nobody else is paying attention to, that we are going to exploit for our own gain in a very positive sense, not exploit for malicious means, but everybody else isn't seeing it. We see the gap, right? So, for instance, we help skilled labor, small business seeking to expand through franchising, through licensing opportunities. Why is this? It provides uniformity across your different units. The other reason why we provide this is because a lot of startup entrepreneurs would be a better fit inside of the entrepreneurial endeavor that is a licensing or a franchise model. They might be going into the game already with a little bit of capital. They themselves don't necessarily want to drum up an idea or look around as far as the market research is concerned. A lot of those things are already done for you when you come to the table to conduct a franchise or a licensing agreement. So again, franchising, licensing, everything that we're talking about here, it's hinging on building that relationship. All right. So again, as you're discussing these things with your new hire in the orientation portion of the book, and you're going through the mission and you're going through the enemy, as you're going along with this, you should be getting, the head nods as you're going through it. They are following along with you, but they themselves are seeing the passion within the greater project. All right, so then you go into the team and support. So you're discussing their role on the team, the other people that are involved, the supporting element. If you have any consultants that are working inside of the organization, if you have anybody who might be an additional supporting element from another company, if you have anybody, let's say, for instance, who might be seasonal employment, somewhere along those lines as supplemental employees, it would find its way into there. Terrain and weather is the seasonality effects, not only which they will endure as the employee, but also the seasonality effects that the organization as a whole is going through. That is the ebbs and flows that you're going to be seeing through these different seasons. All right, and then time, space, logistics. Time is a timeline. It is where you're at in the timeline, where you're looking to go, and where these people are basically seeing themselves jump into the rapid moving stream that is your organization. I'm going to guess if you're bringing this person into your organization, it's because you yourself are trying to manage the chaos in that organization because you're growing, you're expanding. That's awesome. Thumbs up. Hell yes. Fantastic. So when you bring them in, give them a timetable. This is where we started. This is where we're at now. This is where we want to go. Space-wise, space, yes, it could be confused with the environment and where you're going to be working. It could also All right, in this sense, space is we're going to be building this out, the territory, whatever the case may be. So from a HACOA standpoint, space is, well, they're operating within the continental United States, and I would say American territories to an extent, whatever the case may be. But right now, they're operating within CONUS, the continental United States of America. So that is the space in which they're looking to grow. Let's say, for instance, you were doing a global expansion, then you would put in there, it wouldn't necessarily be the globe. You have to put those countries which are going to be, specific targets where you're going to be operating. And then, of course, the logistics, the assets that have been put up so that those individuals that are going out on the ground working day in and day out are going to be covered. That needs to be your orientation when you are bringing somebody in to your overall organization. Why is that? You have introduced your operational leader to them. They're going to be receiving an operational briefing. That means a 5-paragraph business plan brief from an operational leader. Okay, so I, the executive, have done my role. I have provided the MET-T TSL. I have given you an executive summary. I have given you an orientation to our greater overall organization. I have given you the vision on where we are going. Now your operational leader, who has taken that vision and gone and created their own 5-paragraph business plan, as I've discussed in videos of past, they are going to be working from page 41 forward. So your operational leader, what do they have to do with your MET-T TSL in order to turn it into their own 5-paragraph business plan? So if you're following along on 42, you'll see this diagram. Now, in the book, and when we talk with you guys, the reason why it's set up like this, and I will admit it's a little bit generic in how it's set up. The reason why it's set up like this is you have given your op order, your business plan, and I say op order because an order is oratory. You have exclaimed, this is what we are going to do. You have stated your intentions and said, this is where we are going to go. This is the goal. Come hell or high water, we are burning all the damn ships. We're either going to die here or we're going to conquer. And from that order, your operational leaders then take the task that you have assigned to that team, and then they build their own 5-paragraph business plan out of that. That 5-paragraph business plan is then going to be briefed to the individual that you just provided the orientation to. Hey, welcome to 5-paragraph. Here's the MET-T TSL. Here is your immediate leader. Your immediate leader comes in, biggity bow, does the 5-paragraph briefing. What does the 5-paragraph briefing look like? It looks like page 47. So if you go to page 47, they're going through that slide. Okay? Now, real quick, on the daily, so they go through the briefing. They're going through, they do everything. They're telling folks, hey, this is how we're going to operate. On a daily, when you come into work, when you start your shift, your immediate team leader, who is this next individual, let's say, or me, or whomever, is going to brief you using this fragmentary method. Okay, so this is just situation, mission, execution. If there is a support plan for that specific action, if there is an additional command element or any other communication or any other signal method. Some people use communication. You have to remember there are some skilled labor jobs where you are not going to hear a damn thing when somebody is yelling at you. Okay? So when you're shooting guns on a rifle range and everybody's shooting a gun, this means ceasefire. Why is that? Because we can't hear each other. So this means stop shooting your damn gun. Okay? So that is a signal. It needs to be briefed to the employee. Let's say, for instance, you're going to be working around a job site. It requires eye, ear protection, hard hat protection. You're following OSHA. What are going to be your hand and arm signals? Hey, we need somebody over here. Help us out. We need somebody. Call 911, right? Whatever the case may be, you're going to be briefed that signal plan for that shift, for that job site, for that day. And every time you clock out, or as I should say, if you break for chow or anytime like that, you're going to do a debrief. And you've heard me harp on debriefs before. In our organization, This is the breakdown. So we've given you a basic, this is a basic, really, really basic breakdown. This is for you to be able to illustrate your organization breakdown, right? And so when you onboard somebody into your organization, you're going to be showing them, this is the chain of command. This is who you directly report to. If you see anything messed up, illegal, loss of life, limb, eyesight, somebody's got to go to the ER, boom, here's your immediate reporting procedures. That's all available right there to you. It's part of the onboarding, part of the orientation. Now, shortly after this, we put the pitch deck. What I really like doing, if I'm going to bring somebody into the organization, they're comfortable with everything that we're doing. We're feeling it. The relationship is growing. It is maturing through it. At this point, now is when I start bringing out the PowerPoint, okay? It's all narrative until now. All right, the vast majority of what we do is narrative. It's all about the individual people building that relationship amongst the community. We at 5 Paragraph, myself included, 100% believe in being part of something greater than ourselves. We work together in this same methodology because it was the same methodology that was taught to us in the military. And I know that if you can operate in between joint task force, whatever the case may be, different branches all working within unison, all coming from entirely different backgrounds, totally different backgrounds. If the different branches of the U.S. military weren't entirely different, then they would not exist. If the missions were not entirely separated, then there is no need to have it. If you have 4 navies, you have so much redundancy, it's insane. And so that's what we're talking about here. You have the ability to plan, execute, coordinate, so on and so forth with all of these other different organizations. In the military, we operate around the globe on a 24/7, 365 basis, and somehow we keep the wheels on the organization as a whole. Say what you will, we've been doing this for a really long time. We win a lot, and we're a well-oiled machine. Now, here's my biggest feedback, my biggest huge piece of feedback, and I know that I'm wrapping up and this is longer than I wanted to go, and it always is. My biggest piece of feedback when you're done is listen. When you're done providing an orientation to somebody, you have gone all the way through, don't just straight up say like, hey, do you have any questions or anything like that. All right, that puts people on the spot. Tell them up front, think of questions to ask. We're going to ask you at the end of it. We want to make sure that you feel comfortable with what's happening here. If you have any questions whatsoever, you are going to have your moment to ask them at the end. So please jot them down. And then when we go through our entire, briefing, so to speak, and we'll even say, do you feel comfortable with, do you have any questions over met TTSL? Cool. All right. Do you have any questions over the overall plan of attack? Blah, blah, blah. Listen to their feedback, hear them out. All right. More often than not, you're hiring these people because they are adding value to your organization. They're not just a cog in the machine. So you need to value their input. If they're coming in with brand new ideas and all of this other stuff, they themselves need to be able to absorb that, like absorbing information. You're building a two-way street here. Do they themselves jive within the function of the organization? Do they themselves jive within the overall tribe that you have constructed, the overall culture that you've constructed? All right, and you're going to start to see this as you're discussing it more and more with your brand new employees. And now a lot of you have already hired on a lot of your seasonal employees. If you haven't already, there's turnover in skilled labor. There's turnover in a lot of different organizations. And that's one of the things regarding accountability that we really, really, really want to snuff out. Our pain point, our problem that we see is a gigantic hole, a lack of accountability in between the employed and the employer. All right. Now, folks out there who demand accountability out of their employer, who want to work for a purpose, who want to have a reason why they are showing up to work every day. 5-paragraph business plan is going to, yes, add transparency to what you're doing, but it is going to allow you the delegated authority to be able to go out and achieve mission success. All right. And if you do that, you are adding value to the greater overall mission that you yourself care about. All right. You're not just numbers, whatever the case may be. You are a human being. It does need to be a good fit for you from a relationship standpoint when you join an organization. You are accepting an offer. Yes, you interviewed, but you are accepting an offer. And that means that they value you as a human being. And you need to take the time during that orientation to really see whether or not you want to be a part of that organization. I think all too often, a lot of people, especially in the economy of past, felt very, very desperate when they were sitting in the interview chair, when in all actuality, they're interviewing you because they need you, your strength base, your talents. They're just interviewing you to be a mindless drone every day. I mean, I'm sure that there are other jobs you could find out there that will appreciate your services, especially in today's economy. Thank you so much for being a part of the 5-Paragraph community. Share 5-Paragraph with everybody. Share it with the entire known waking universe. If you can, I would love for you to get an electronic bullhorn and blast it across the Milky Way galaxy, this beautiful pinwheel that we happen to be a part of. Folks, I love you. I honestly do. I'm not even joking. You're awesome. You're fantastic. We'll see you on the next Go Live. Take care. Be well. Semper Fidelis, always.